Okay, week 6. I mistakenly said last week was week 6, but it was almost on week 6. It was a Friday, and we're only a couple of days later. It is actually in turn week 6. This week we were supposed to have Adam Mills from the Human Subjects Office at IU with us, but he's encountered some back issues, and he'll be back with us in a couple of weeks. So instead of hearing from Adam about IRB process and the questions that you might have this to be resolved, I'm going to give you some more writing tips until we have Ana Paula Carrera come with us from Ohio State University. Let me call up my slides. I'll go to, this is again the G3 of writing. I'm going to go to maybe skip ahead to part 5 or 6. Let me take a look here. Let's see if I've got those slides with us. And I know I do, because there they are. I'm skipping all the way ahead to part 8. There we go. So part 8, timeout for some additional writing advice. A good writer will sometimes search hours for just the right word. How true that is. We get stuck and stuck and stuck. But now we have the sources. Now we have ChatGPT. Now we have, Claude and other AI technologies can give us words that we can use. And we have our friends too. Writing. Write. Some letters make a word. Some words make a sentence. Some sentences make a page. Some pages make a chapter. Some chapters make a book. Write. Write more, write even more than that. Write when you don't want to, write when you have, when you do. Write when you have something to say, write when you don't, write every day, keep writing. Brian Clark, happy blogger. Write. And I try and abide by those principles. I try and write every day. So I mark days in my planner where I'm going to be working on different projects. I try and allocate time. I try and think ahead about what space I have for writing in my days or months or weeks in my planner. Where can I get something in? Maybe it's on a plane. Maybe it's after I land. Maybe it's when I'm at home. Maybe it's late at night. Usually it's late at night for me. For other people, it's early in the morning. But, plan it out, whether it's in your head or on a sheet of paper, in a planner, whether it's promises you make to your colleagues in an email, commitments, goals, and all that are the most critical part of writing success from my perspective anyhow. Commitment is something that we want to have so that we can allocate mental resources and physical resources to accomplish those tasks. Maintain a list, a network of potential writing collaborators. Now, yesterday I went through a list. I should have brought it up here. I've got a list of every single writing collaborator across my 417 publications. There are 203 different people I've collaborated with to publish. There are 102 graduate students who I've worked with, 25 advisees who I've worked with. Hi, Tiana, good to have you here, and Ed's here. At least we have 2 people with us. We've lost Tiana. We've lost our guest for tonight, so I'm subbing in. He's got back issues, and so he'll be with us probably on February 28th at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday in a couple of weeks. Adam Mills will join us then.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Until now, you're stuck with me. So the first one that we went through is just mark, from this part 8 of my G3 of writing. I've skipped ahead to part 8. Is on writing, and writing is thinking, and writing is planning, and writing is goal setting. Metacognition plays a key role in the reading and writing process. To be a competent reader or writer, you really have to think strategically about what you're doing. And planning, goal setting, meta summary reviews of what you've accomplished so far, all that is critical. Self-regulating your learning or your writing, as the case may be. So you want to maintain those lists of potential collaborators, because like I said, I've had 200 and some, and actually a former student of mine, Susie Gronseth, created it's down in my basement. She created like a painting, but it's a list of all the people I've written with and collaborated with by year. because I've indexed it. I sent it to her, and she made it into like a trophy list of everyone I've worked with. So I've published or written with a lot of folks in different ways, shapes, and forms. I have a couple papers ready for me to review right now, in fact, from former students. I could do them tonight, or I could do them tomorrow, or whatever. So constantly doing different writings. So maintain a list of who you can write with and who you might want to write with. But keep it to the good people, quality people, because there's 7 billion or so people, maybe 8 billion by now. Life's too short to work with the egomaniacs and people who lie. So, work with people you want to work with and avoid people you don't want to work with. Simple as that. Find good people. Draft a timeline and multiple timelines with flexible goals. You could have one clearly defined timeline for every project you're working on, and have that set up on one wall. And then you could have each individual project on separate timelines that you could also maybe put in your refrigerator or your garage door or in your pocket or under your pillow to sleep at night. But timelines are critical, because then you're, again, setting the stage for the writing process to occur. The timelines help you think about when you're going to get things in and what you maybe have left to do and where you're going to have some potential openings to do it. And it shows you progress. Now, I'm never a believer in one timeline for everything, like meaning that you can't change, you should be able to change them. Timelines should be flexible. So if you miss a goal, so be it. If you made every goal that you could put in your timeline, you'd be a superstar. And so don't worry if you haven't made exactly the progress that you had hoped to make on paper number 4, paper number 5, or idea number 1, or so forth. And then when you're coming up with things to work on, when you're talking to colleagues about their ideas, or in my case, talking to students about their ideas, everything's got potential publication. If you think long and deep about it, there's potential for publishing in maybe an applied journal or a theoretical journal or a conceptual journal or a high-level research data-driven journal. But think about the publishing potential. When a student defends a dissertation, I've often read the dissertation on different pages. I'll say, this is publishable. This graph is publishable. This table is publishable. These ideas are publishable. This list is publishable. And from there, you've got starter text. You've got a starter graph in which you can work from and reshape and shape those ideas up into something that's valuable. Be a bumblebee and a butterfly. Be a bumblebee when you go to conferences, and maybe sit in the back of the room and listen for a bit to one session. If it doesn't attract you all that much, go to another room. I typically, unless I really know someone, I want to stay for the whole hour. If I don't want to stay the whole hour, I'm sitting in the back. I'm sitting near the edge. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I also want to learn something. Be a social butterfly around the water coolers and the bubblers, as we call them in Wisconsin. You can leave the room. Maybe it's a little boring at the time. Go to the bubbler and talk to other butterflies and share ideas and cross-pollinate and so forth in and amongst the different stems of an idea that you might have. But we learn new ideas from the networking side, from talking to others and collaborating with one another. And then find, save, and use starter text to overcome writer's block. I had to do an application for something that's due this Friday. I sent someone high up in my department a long email, not necessarily complaining about it, but yeah, maybe. But those emails gave me some ideas that I could put in the nomination, and it saved me a whole lot of time. Starter text can save your brain a lot of tension and turmoil, because when you're looking at a blank screen like Tom Hanks there, you can kind of go crazy and nutso. So, you want to have something to work from. And so when you submit a paper and the editors ask you to change certain things and delete some paragraphs, as I said in week 1 or 2, save those paragraphs for a rainy day. Save them for the next paper that you might be working on. Always trying to save, if possible, if and where possible, try and save what it is that you're working on. And always, I find it valuable to always look at the end of the article and maybe work backwards. read the reference list and see which articles that you didn't find in your literature review, and maybe search for those articles and print them out or download them and read them online. But you're going to find out what journals are popular, what articles are popular, what researchers are popular by scanning the reference section. Sometimes the reference section is as valuable as reading the article itself. And avoid high quality journal fixations. And there are countries actually that fixate on what's called SSCI journals. If you're in Singapore, if you're in Taiwan, if you're in Korea, if you're in China, if you're not publishing in Social Science Citation Index, you're nobody, basically. You get big promotions in Korea, big bonus checks, like 5,000 for being the first author of a SSCI publication. In Taiwan, you can get distinguished professor if you get an SSCI. In China, which now has Chinese SSCI, CSSCI, you can get tenure. And in Singapore, you better get a whole lot of them, or you ain't gonna be talking to anybody. You better get about 15 of them. It's a pretty stressful place, pretty competitive. So avoid that. I had a colleague, she focused only on SSCI. She went to grad school with me at Wisconsin at Madison. And when she became a faculty member in my ed psych department, when she got here, she only would publish in the top journals and wouldn't take a second tier journal or third tier. And it almost cost her tenure, actually. But eventually, she had a couple grad students who kind of convinced her to publish in alternative journals. Sometimes okay to be second or third author. In fact, most times maybe be second or third author. You don't want first author everything. So sometimes you have to, kind of grant actually your colleagues and tell your colleagues, hey, you can be first author of this one. I don't need to be first author on it. I'll be happy to be a third author, and reduce your stress, but still get the ideas published. So you don't want to become first on everything. Number one, you might get kind of a negative reputation as not being willing to let your colleagues be first on something. And the second is you'll be exhausted if you are.
So Dr. Bonk, based
Yeah,
off
go
that,
ahead, please.
based off being the first on there, do the publishers expect more from you if you're the first?
So there is something weird that's called a contributing, or it's called the author that they contact. So you could be third, but still in from Korea policy, because you'd be the author of contact, they have another name for it. You are actually the most important one because that's who the journal is going to contact for any questions and so forth. So sometimes we might, in our team, we might put someone else as first author from America where it really doesn't, they don't care. And from Korea, the contact person might be the second or third author, which is a really important role. But in terms of the journal itself, yeah, it's the contact author that's listed, and typically the contact author will be the first author. And that'll be the one that maybe about 65% of the time, the journals will contact them first, right? And let me just stop my screen here for a second. The journals will contact them first. And so, often I won't get an email from the editor, but the first author will say, oh, the journal contacted me yesterday and gave me all this list of changes we got to make. So that about, like I said, 65% of the time, that's what the journal will do. They'll send everything to the one person. Okay, Tiana had to run to get her kid. So then the lead author, contact author, first author will let the rest of them know that that's the case. So yeah, it's a great question. Any other questions so far?
No, not yet.
Okay, so let me go back to those slides. But it's something to think about anyhow. Don't spread yourself too thin. And if you need the money and you're working in higher education as an academic, you can still teach summer school, but do it in an intensive fashion so that the rest of the summer could be spent writing. Now, if you're working in corporate setting, you might think about what can you get done during a break time in the schedule, or what sometimes a lot of people, actually, a lot of my students who work in corporate will get permission from their bosses to spend part of their Friday at work writing their dissertations. and they'll negotiate that with their bosses. They'll negotiate something so that they can get some writing done in addition to their normal requirements, job responsibilities, and so forth. So there are ways in which one can free up time. In my early days as a faculty member, I taught 8-day courses, the full course in 8 days. And I did a second course for 8 days. So in 16 days, basically in about 3 weeks, in May and June, I had the whole summer monies coming in that I normally would make over the whole summer, and I had 2 or 3 months still to write and get stuff done. So you got to think strategically, you got to think smart about where you're writing, when you're writing, and what the opportunities for writing are. And some people might write, all their ideas off after pacing and pacing and pacing, might write it all down like Mozartians to do it all in one stream of consciousness. But most are either combiners, where it might be a little stream of consciousness and some tinkering, or totally tinkering, which is more me. I'm more Beethoven than I am Mozart. At times I can get in a free flow, but typically I'm tinkering at the point of utterance, and every paper takes 7 rounds of editing, or at least 3 or 4 or 5 rounds. And then after reviewing from the publisher, this is going to take a few more rounds of editing. So every time you edit the paper, hopefully it's becoming better and improving and so forth. And you see Beethoven's mobile phone there, by the way, and sunglasses and scarf. So the Chronicle of Higher Ed started to publish little pieces about writing back in 2018 with some writing tips. And there's a video that goes along with these tips here. So I'm just going to read what's explained in the video rather than showing the entire video, which I'm not even sure that the video is available still at that web link. But basically the notion is writing is an exercise. Writing is something you have to do and schedule time for and repeat. Setting goals based on output, not input. 3 pages double space is what I'm gonna my output. Oh, okay, 3 pages. That'd be a goal. Some people like to say to spend 30 minutes of writing or hour of writing. She's saying, no, let's look at what's actually produced. Not, you might be sitting there looking out at the forest in the back like I have and not writing anything. And then, find your voice, find your perspective, find something unique that you can contribute. What I tell students always, it should be something that value, something creative, like a figure, a chart, an acronym, a quotable quote. Find your voice within the piece, something that you can draw others' attention to. Give yourself time, not deadlines. That's, I like that. Just find time in your planner, find time in your day, and set yourself up for success instead of setting yourself up for failure. Pick a puzzle that you want to solve. Your writing is like answering a puzzle or a gap, something, something opening out there within the research area, and then edit over and over, just like Beethoven. Organize conference symposia. This can lead to all sorts of things: new friendships, new ideas, connections with others, resources that they contribute, a follow-on conference afterwards. It also can lead to often to a special journal issue. I've had a couple, 2 or 3 pre-conference symposia that I've turned into becoming a special journal issue, which in turn became print-on-demand books, at least 2 of those. So I've had a book or 2 or 3 come out of a conference setting because people are attending it with like-minded ideas and interests. And so you can share with one another. Sponsored visiting scholars. As right now, as you see in my class, I got 4 of them. They often have ideas that they can share with you. If you're in that situation, if you're a corporate working at Dell, I understand that you won't have that capability, but many people in this class might have in the future anyhow. I'm just pointing this out because often you'll get an email from a visiting scholar, from someone in Turkmenistan. You'll say, no, I have no time. Make time for some of the people, even if it's just to say hello and wish you well. You never know where those odd contacts might come in handy down the road. I save almost everyone I have an interaction with a significance I save their email and address and name, and I can look them up when I go to that conference, go to that country or go to that city. My network expands and expands and expands. One mistake I made, as I may have mentioned earlier in this semester, is I had a problem publishing anything in my early days because I love conferences. I go to one conference after another conference after another conference, another conference, but I wouldn't publish any. I just do another paper. Let's just write another paper. Let's do more research. And you know, wasn't publishing this stuff. It was hard. No one taught me, by the way, how to do this kind of stuff, because I finished my doctoral work, my master's in 2 years, my doctoral work in a year and a half, including dissertation. It was a little fast.
So Dr. Bonk, on this
Yeah.
one, is this saying that you shouldn't try to beat that deadline for that conference to publish?
I'm saying you take your article that you submitting to a conference, and the conference might want 1,000 words or 2,000 words. I'm suggesting that you take that 2,000 words and turn it into 6,000 before the conference and submit
Okay.
it somewhere, and try to publish it before you ever get there. Now, some conferences actually frown on people presenting things that are published, but you know, if you submit after, you know what I'm saying, you submit to the conference, then you submit the article to a journal. And usually the journal process takes a year or two, so you know, it won't be published, but might be in press. And then when you stand up and give your talk, you say, this article's in press, by the way, or I have a preprint. I'm happy to share it with you. Or I have a draft version. Would you like to see it? You know, that kind of stuff. Good question. It's tricky, and it's hard when people don't have time, but it really saves a lot of time to do the front end because after the conference, oftentimes you want to go and relax, you know, and you forget about the paper. Be creative somewhere. Be creative someplace. Be creative, you know, in some aspect of that article or that technical report or that book. As I said, whether it's the book title or a unique model or figure or paradigm, or you know, some kind of framework or chart, something should be creative. That inspires you as the writer. It inspires others as the reader, and it gets you known for something. And sometimes you may be pushing the envelope, and sometimes you might not have the visualization skills that are needed to create it. So you might have to form a partnership or pay someone a little bit of money on the side to develop the figure, chart, framework, and so forth. Now, Merve Bastigan will be with us in a couple of weeks, and she's a brilliant visualization person and artist, and has done many things for me. But you know, we can talk to her about that issue.
So
What's that?
yeah, it did bring an interesting topic. I've talked to people about, you know, what to title your paper. You know, should you put a question, then put your statement behind it, or yeah, how can you make it creative where people are drawn to it? Because everyone's drawn with that quick question.
Yeah,
The
and
world's
you
in
know,
trouble. Here's my
the-
my
yeah.
thesis reaction after it or something, you know.
Yeah, I recommend brainstorming 10 possible titles. Really, it doesn't hurt to brainstorm all sorts of titles, and then talk to your colleagues and settle on some. That if you're co-writing it, even if you're not, ask your colleagues what they think. You know.
Because I did that, and then I put into Chat GTP and some other AI tools to see how it would interpret it, and like, huh, I like that word. But I don't like the rest of it, but I like the word.
Yeah.
That's what I want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
use as part of title.
Right. An acronym, a funny question. Often I'll pose like a little quip, you know, in 3-word quip, or, you know, time to connect is one of the titles of one of my chat. And that has a subtitle, you know, time to connect. The tool we're using is called Connect. Okay. Life is a breeze. Well, the tool we were using was a breeze, and then became Adobe Connect Pro. We couldn't change the title of the article to Life is an Adobe Connect Pro, but Life is a breeze. That worked before they changed the name. So, you know, I've got many titles where it's really kind of a tongue-in-cheek humor, you know, if you really look at them. And some are acronyms. I had a project Cactals, computer attitude questionnaire for thinking and learning skills of the 1990s. You know, it's a long name, but it had an acronym. So right now I'm trying to create the Indiana International Initiative on Globally Enhancing Thinking, Instruction, and Technology. That's a mouthful, but it stands for I get it. I get it. 3 I's, so I cubed, get it. It's, you know, so it's something fun like that. I had a conferencing on the web, Cow. Well, we had some creative titles with the Cow Project, you know. Holy Cow was why actually one of the papers called Holy Cow. And then it has subtitle, you know, so I'd say try and be creative where you can in the title.
Okay, thank
Modify.
you.
Yeah, sure. You know, go for it. You know, try. If they don't like it, they can always suggest you change it, right? So, you know, I go for the creative one first. I would. You know, modify your environment if it's giving you problems. You know, I'm having elbow problems all of a sudden today, and I think, you know, I've got, I don't know, it's not tennis elbow because I'm playing tennis in 20 years, but something going on. So I may have to modify my writing environment right now, or get some ice, um, or see a doctor. But you know, we all have to modify where we're working from time to time and rethink um, our space. And I'll get back to that when Maina joins us next Friday, a week from Friday. The issue of space. We'll talk
So,
about that.
so I had a question about
Yeah.
that as far as modifying your environment. Have you ever used talk to text and then modified from there? Because I have like Microsoft 365, and if you go to Word, you have the option of doing talk to text. And I've done a lot of stuff where I've just talked my ideas out and
Right.
then revamped them later as I looked at them again.
So this is a tool that lets you talk to the computer. Ed, you're muted, Ed. Did we lose you, Ed?
Oh, there you go. It's in Microsoft 365 under Word. You have the
Right.
option of pulling it up in a corner. It has like a microphone, so you can talk and it'll write it out what it thinks you're saying.
Okay.
And I've used that to do that, so I could just talk through ideas, and then
Yeah.
you have to know the prompting of it too. But then you come back later and re-edit it, and maybe put through an AI. Like, okay, now I put my ideas in something I can use.
Right. That's why a lot of people are, you know, like being interviewed, you know, like podcasts, you know, because you get a transcript that might become an article. And like we have Otter, some people are using Otter on this class or on the Monday night class, and it's a transcript of the whole, you know, conversation.
Okay.
And Cultura does this too, it makes the transcript. So there's multiple tools. So Microsoft calls it talk to text. That's interesting. I've
Well,
not
it's just a
utilized.
button. It's a button that's
Yeah.
I've got had look where it is, but it's only if you have the subscription. It's not on a regular. If you buy a regular Microsoft
Oh,
Suite, you don't get it.
I see. All right, let me go back into the slides here.
Yeah, you have 8 minutes, by the way, in case you're
Yeah,
tracking.
yeah, I just caught that too. That this is a 10-2. I'll go to 5-2 and then we'll take a 5-minute break. So modify your environment, but not too much. And this is me. Oftentimes at night, I just sleep on my desk for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I wake back up and work. You know, just wherever I've got a little space with a bunch of papers. And there's, you know, I can go down any place for 5 or 10 minutes. Try not to give up. You know, my advisor back in Madison, or one of my advisors said, you know, the first time he was writing papers, he got rejected. He never changed them. You know, and he kind of realized later on that if you make all the changes the editors want, he's gotten every paper accepted since that time when he's not been rejected flat out. You know, when they say revise and resubmit, revise and resubmit is actually a go sign. You know, typically it's a green flag sign almost. You're getting near the end. So grit wins the day. Persistence wins the day. Try not to give up if possible, if time allows. Now, if they're fifth time you've gone to that journal and they're saying revise and resubmit, well, yeah, you can maybe submit to a different journal. If they've given you totally ridiculous things that they want you to change before, you know, submitting a new version, then maybe go to a new, you know, journal. You know, so it's within reason. 90% of the time, just keep going with the same journal. About 10%, maybe 15, 20, you want to switch off to another place. But it all depends on the type of feedback. It depends how much time it took them to do the first round of reviews. If it takes them 9 months to do the first round of reviews, you might think twice about resubmitting to that journal. If it takes a year, you might think twice. We've had a couple of them this year take a year, you know, that we've gotten back. It took a year. Be polite, be thankful, be respectful to the reviewers, to fellow book chapter authors, to contributors to your special issue. Be polite and thankful to everybody, you know, as much as you can be. And that will win the day, you know. So you know, I think that's one of the most important things that you can do. Um, you know, you'll feel better about it. You know, you'll have more gratitude and so forth. I had one student from another country who didn't get something accepted and said that, he told the book editor or the journal editor, "I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore." And that's what Dr. Bonk told me. Well, he wasn't my advisee. I never even talked to the guy much. I happened to give a talk in a class where I was making fun from the movie Network, where the guy says, "I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore." I was just goofing around, not talking about writing or papers or anything like that. And he quoted me, and he got me in all sorts of trouble, And so I had nothing to do with this guy's paper or mentoring him. He wasn't even my student. But he said, "I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to." Don't do that to the editors. Just don't say that kind of thing. It's not going to be helpful. As you might guess, it's not going to be helpful. Be gracious within reason and try and vary the kinds of things that you're saying. When you make the change on the first page, "Oh, thank you, we didn't see that." Make a change on the second page. "Well, that was great insight." You make a change on the third page. That was really an interesting observation. Just change the comments that you're making back and just point out what you're, recap in the recap points, recapping reviewer points and how you attempted to address them. You list their points in the left-hand side and you make the changes in the right-hand side in a 2x2, 2 by whatever table in Word, and then you send that revisionary table back, and here's the suggested changes from reviewer 1, reviewer 2, reviewer 3, and here's what we did, right? And now if you go to Dropbox, there's all sorts of sample revisionary tables. So if you want to know how to respond to the reviewers, there's a whole bunch in there in Dropbox. And apparently, Ed, you've downloaded them, so you know that's the
Yes.
case. Share your publication efforts when you've gotten done, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn or Line or WeChat, Kakao Talk, Instagram, academia.edu, ResearchGate, whatever. Share. People want to find out that you've had success. You want to breathe for a second, say, "Oh," and go have a reflective drink or candy bar or ice cream or something. And share, and you might get a new collaborator as a result, or people might cite your article. And often the journal will say, "Hey, put this in social media, and the first 100 downloads are going to be free. It's going to cost $500 after that, but your first 100 friends can download it for free." That's great, or after a year, they can download it for free. So celebrate, but don't celebrate too much with your friends. Now, my nephew is there in the middle, and he's pointing his hand up at a book. And the book is my book, The World is Open. It was in a bookshelf at the reception for his wedding in Kansas City. And they're all doing The World is Open. That's my World is Open book. My brother, my sister-in-law, my niece, my nephew. But they guillotined the book. They just put the edge of the book in this wall. They had my book in the wall, just the edge of the book. I don't know why they picked my book, but certainly they did. That was one of the funnier moments out there. But don't celebrate too much. So a few others before we take a little break here. Bonus items. Be careful committing to other people's projects, because other people's projects are other people's ideas, are other people's recognitions, are other people's rewards, are other people's signature items, OPPs. It's okay to do some of those, but I spent part of my early career doing a project for someone else, and it was a huge problem because when we went to publish, there were 3 of us working together. He wanted his name first or second on everything because it was his idea initially. He got, in with the grant money and all that, but he wouldn't do any of the writing, and so we had a huge issue going back and forth. So be careful about overcommitting to other people's projects. It wasn't
So,
even, yep, go ahead.
based on that, should you have an agreement before you enter into someone else's project? Here's what I'll
Yeah.
do for you, and here's what I won't do. If you want to be first, then you need to rewrite or do all the stuff first. And if you want me to research the ideas and
Yeah.
bring resources, okay.
Yeah, you can do it that way, or you can just say, "I think we can get 3 papers out of this. What do you think? How about you take the lead on the first paper and we'll go with this journal, and I'll try and take the lead on this second or third article and we'll go with this one."
Okay.
And then whoever takes the lead will be the first author, and the one who does second most amount of work will be second author. I mean, that might be a better way to go, and just say, well, I'm not going to do, XYZ unless I'm, just say, be a little more proactive and just say, I'm really interested in this journal. I've not ever published in it. I like people's writings in this place. So can I take the lead on the more applied article that might go into a corporate, type of journal? That's
Okay.
one way to do it. Another way is just kind of in between, is just to say, okay, we've got, how should we split up authorship on these papers, and just say it that way. How would you like to split up authorship? And do we need to get extra help? And along the same lines, do we need a fourth person to help us with data analysis? Because we don't have time for that right now, but we can get these published if someone can help us analyze data. So let's go contact XYZ person and tell her or him that he'll be third author on one paper, maybe second, and maybe fourth on another, kind of thing. So you negotiate with the extra people. That happens a lot, where we get another person and we give that person, we might move them up on the second paper they helped with, but the first one, they're going to be last, so yeah, it all
So does
changes.
it
Yep.
matter to you where you are in that paper, or
Sometimes
as far as the author?
it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Sometimes it matters where you are. Um, I'm often taking a lower role. It's really weird. In the past 4 years, I've had some of my students have placed me higher than I should be. And actually, recently, I'm lower than I should be on some. So it kind of evens out. In some of the recent ones, I'm lower than I probably, for all the work we've had. We've had one person, well, let's just say some people haven't contributed what they were going to. And, so but I still think if they've got the initial idea, they should be first or second. So in terms of the amount of work, there's a couple where I'm fourth, but I've been first or second, or I'm second. I let someone else, like I have a book, MOOCs and Open Ed around the world. I didn't want to do the figures and tables, the tedious work. And so I said to someone else, well, I'll do all the work, but if you want to do this crappy job part, you can be first author of the book. And it makes her look like she's done all the work. My place won't give me as much credit, but I just didn't want to, negotiate the figures and get permissions and, all that, graphic
Okay.
images. I've done that several times, where I said, I don't want to do even the special issues of the journal. I'm listed as last in both the last two special issues, just because I didn't want to go into the publisher system and manipulate the papers and send them out for review. I didn't want to do that. So there might be different reasons why you're first or second, and not just how much work you've done. It might be just, some things that you just don't feel comfortable doing or want to do.
Because I see it too as, if you're citing it, it's someone at all. So if there's three of
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
no
yep.
one's
Your
gonna really
name's
know
on.
you're there.
Yeah,
There.
that's true, and it's even more so in APA 7. They used to list all the authors, or up to 5. Now, if it's 3 or more, they only list the first author in the
Yes.
paper. You're in the reference section, you get credit there, but in the paper itself, they don't. So yeah, that is true. That is definitely true.
So I don't know what it means to people. I mean, obviously I'm not in academia, so it's not going to mean that much to me, as long as I'm somewhere in that article as being
Well,
credited. But
yeah, unless your great grandson tries to look you up in 50 years, then it does make a difference.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know.
Or
Hopefully, want to work on a science fiction book, so we'll see.
okay, there you go. All right, I got you. And look for special issues where you can contribute, or we can lead, or lately our AI research is all going in special issues. A lot of my research is going in special issues, my open ed research, my MOOCs research. There's just a ton of special issues because journals are getting known for special issues. So it's a quicker way. It's still peer reviewed. It's still the same values, but from everyone else. Sometimes save, like a squirrel saving nuts, save articles for a rainy day in file folders that you might pick up and read at different points in time, for maybe when you have more time in the summer or in a break time. No, I have an index file on my homepage off my desktop, where I just articles to read, and I've got an index by topic. And so if I ever need an article on virtual reality, if I need an article on the future of education, they're all in there waiting for me to read them or share them, So have an indexing system that you can reuse, right?
Wow.
Treat your colleagues as colleagues, treat everyone as colleagues. I don't treat, I look at students as friends first, colleagues second, and students third. I want to build up my friend base. That's really important to me personally. And so I treat everyone as a potential friend or as a friend. If you treat them as that, you'll end up getting more published than you ever thought was possible, because everyone will want to be on your team and work with you and so forth. But you have to be genuine in that regard. Don't just, assume a persona that's not really you, right? And then find a mentor. Find, a more senior person or more experienced person, more successful person in terms of writing and publishing, and ask them for their tips and their advices, like Anna coming in at 7 o'clock, and we'll get her advices and tips. Form a writing group, like you've done, form a study group for quals. This doesn't work for me that often, but for some people, it structures their time. It gets them a commitment. It gets them a network to share their successes and failures. It gets them, empathy from others. It gets them in a community of writing, and a community of writers or community of studiers, or, write for the general public once in a while, write an op-ed piece or a newsletter piece or a blog post or something that just translates into lay terms. The notion of translation research is growing because we have so much research. We need people out there that can translate it into common language for everyone else. Keep a notebook on what you're thinking and what you've come up with and where you're going and so forth. New ideas that you might have, and things that you haven't explored, things you have explored, and so forth. Engage in free writing and things like that. Engage in some kind of open creative activity so as to get your mind going for new ideas and stimulating new thought and generating new thought and idea. Read every day. I'm always marking and indexing and taking notes on, and little slips of paper in my pocket. I've got 20 slips of papers in my pocket right now. These are all quotes, and then the back of these quotes, I write little notes about what ideas come up when I go to a colloquium, I go to a guest talk. I listen to Anna. We'll talk to her in a few minutes. I write notes down for myself.
Yeah, she's on right now. We're
Yeah, I
at
let her in.
56. We're at
Yeah.
56 right now. I didn't know if you wanted to take a break.
I am taking a break right here. We're right at the right spot to take a break, in fact. So those are like 20 writing publishing tips along with 10 bonus items. So for those of you who are watching the recording, this has been week 6. Now, last week was not week 6, so I said it was week 6. This is actually week 6, R795, spring semester 2024. That was part 8 of the G3 of writing: gentle stories, gigantic gains, and gigantic scholarly success. Great guidelines, gentle guidelines, great stories, and gigantic scholarly gains. I think that's the title. Oh, God. So I'm going to record this, put it up to the cloud here, and it's going to the cloud right now. Thanks to Ed. Thanks for Tiana for coming in. And thanks to Anna for showing up. Bye-bye. Till next time.